Roundtable. I am your host, Johnny DeRay. I am excited about today's topic. We have a special guest with us today from our family, my family, the King's Cathedral family to yours. We wish you a happy Thanksgiving. We pray that this year you'll be able to spend time with your loved ones and friends and family. So today we are going to be talking about Thanksgiving. We're going to be talking about traditions, or our favorite food, favorite dishes, but we also are going to talk about the stress that comes with holiday season. We're going to be talking about the griefs that comes with the holiday season and some of the downside as well. So we're going to be touching on different areas of the holiday season. So I hope that you are going to stay tuned for the entire duration of today's service, today's message rather. But we want to just really take to not just the holiday season into a one day thing, but we want to talk about what goes on after the holiday season and also what goes on leading up to the holidays. So with that, before we introduce our guests, we want you to like, share, subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Go ahead and do that now. And I'm going to bring in our guest, none other, Dr. Brenda Mcgill. Dr. Brenda Mcgill, please come on in. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining Dr. Brenda Mcgill.
Hello. Glad to be here. I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So Dr. Brenda, as you are aware, we are amongst Thanksgiving, and soon Christmas will be following right behind it.
Yes.
So I want to talk about traditions. I want to talk about some favorite times, favorite meals, but also the stress that comes along with the holiday season, and as well as the ups and downs emotionally. But before we do that, how about you introduce yourself to the world?
Oh, okay. So let's see. Brenda Mcgill here, and I'll do a quick recap. I was born in Macon, Georgia, and it's where both of my parents are from Georgia. Moved to Rhode Island around 3 years old, so I no longer had an accent when I grew up. Dad was in the Navy, and he went to Newport base. And so I've been in Providence the majority of my growing up life. So for those folks who know Rhode Island, I went to Nathan Bishop Middle School and Hope High School.
Okay, go Blue Waves.
That's right, Blue Wave, yes. And had the privilege to receive a scholarship to Providence College, which I had to maintain an AB average to keep. And so that's a passion of mine. And met my husband at Providence College. And we have 2 great children, and now we have grandchildren. And now I'm retired. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. I've done my years of work and continuing to be in his service, even though I've retired from work. So I think that's a pretty rounded introduction.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you. I did not know your dad was in the Navy. Wow. So that's awesome news. I did not know that. You actually touched on something that is going to bring me into another question. You said when you were at PC, Providence College, for those that are not aware of what PC stands for, you said you had to maintain a B average.
Yes.
So you have ventured into a business called a B average student. So can you share a little bit about your new business?
Oh, yes. How much time do we have? So during my time in higher ed, I spent the last 21 years of my career in higher ed, and the first 21 years working with adults and teaching. And I discovered along the way a process that really was very beneficial to students in helping them evaluate their behaviors and make decisions better and use some critical thinking skills and and in the process of it, improve their grades and often just their lives in general. And so after I retired, I decided I should try to provide that still. So I've created this project called AB Average Student, and it is essentially a 7-week program that runs during the semester, but it starts off with a free 5-day challenge. And we talk about communication skills. And I've heard people say to me, oh, I have great communication skills. Well, if your grades are not A's and B's, then we could use those great communication skills to help you. So we talk about 4 major things that first week. We talk about thinking before you act and what those consequences can be. So it's kind of like, so how's that working for you, right? We talk about managing emotions so that we can achieve our goals, and how do we recover, right, when something happens, and how do we manage that anxiety and those frustrations? So we have to manage those emotions while we're still in school.
Right.
We work on revising a plan for facing obstacles. And we have to be flexible. Life happens, your husband works late, the children get sick, and those things. And the last piece that we work on during those 5 days is how do we follow through on a goal, right? Again, distractions, competing interests, and where is that priority? And I often use and have heard from Bishop, it's knowing your why. Why are you doing this? So you have to stick to it. And so there are assessments throughout the week. We have these 3 prompts they do every day to kind of do a self-evaluation, and then some strategies we talk about. It's a very valuable week of getting started on establishing a foundation for getting those A's and B's.
Right.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is something I believe so many students could benefit from. So that is amazing that you are starting this project. I'm excited about it. I hope you are.
I am. Oh, I am. I am.
But it's so needed. I know I can speak for myself as a student. It's something that I believe is so can be so valuable. So that's awesome. Way to go.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yes. So onto the topic of the holidays. So Thanksgiving is tomorrow. If you have yet to go to the supermarket, God bless you.
Thank you, Riley. I have a lot of patience heading out. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it's going to be crazy. There's going to be a lot of people around, but before we get into the craziness, traditions. For me at least, I can say. So my family is from Haiti. So Thanksgiving is not a big thing in our family. However, we still did the annual turkey on Thanksgiving Day. However, we never did it the traditional way. It was never in the oven. We actually would fry the turkey. So growing up, I would go to middle school and I'll talk to my classmates about how we just had this fried turkey, and my classmates would look at me like, what? So fast forward, now fried turkey is like the thing. So
yes,
my grandmother and my parents were ahead of the time,
Right. Thank you. Yes.
But so we would fry the turkey, and it was basically, whenever you're hungry, come to the stove, grab the food, and go about your business. It will go to the living room, watch some football, go to your room, whatever. And that was our thing every single year, So what was that like for you?
Well, yeah. So we typically had the traditional Thanksgiving. It was a major shift because the first 14 years or so of my life, my father was in the Navy, and so he was not home on any particular holiday. And it really didn't hit me until he came home that we had that sit down together. Like you said, before us 4 kids, we eat whenever, wherever. Mom was just happy we didn't make a mess. And and when Dad came home, now we all had to sit together and be like, well, can't we watch TV? So no, we didn't watch TV. You had to have dinner together. It was fastest meal ever. But as I had my own family, I began to enjoy having everyone at the table. and extended family. I didn't have extended family in Rhode Island. Everybody was in Georgia. So
Yeah.
until one of my aunts moved up to Rhode Island. But it was always an interesting experience because of his regimental
Mm.
perspective on everything, on how we behaved and performed. And I would just kind of sit back and go, who is this man? But we have I love it today. I love it.
Yeah.
We're actually doing our Thanksgiving on Saturday
Okay.
because we have so many family members doing different things. And my sister convinced me that why don't we just change the day
Yeah.
so that everybody can come? I was like, okay, that sounds
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Okay.
So
You're starting a new tradition, I see.
I'm starting a new tradition. Yes. So I'm going to at least 2 dinners tomorrow and maybe 3. So
Okay.
don't have one here. So yeah. So yeah, it's been pretty much tradition.
Right. So, what were some of the things that you grew up with, as far as tradition-wise, that you brought into your own family?
I guess we didn't have major traditions. There was always just so many people around.
Mm.
There were lots of discussions about how people's lives were going. That I think that was, if there's a tradition, that's probably the biggest one, where
Yeah.
there was this huge supportive conversation that went around. And if you didn't want to have that conversation, you should leave the room, because somebody was going to ask you, well, how's it going? And how's the job? And how's the family? And you would feel like, oh, maybe that's too much. But that was what our family did. And we were there to support each other. We weren't there to put you down, but we'd correct you if we thought you needed it. So I think that was a huge tradition for us, that conversation.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So good. So let's talk about some of the things leading up to the holidays rather. Some of the chaos, the stress.
Yes.
Now for someone like myself, I don't like to be around chaos. If there's a lot going on around me, I tend to get quiet and I just observe a lot. But I'm not a fan of chaos. I'm not a fan of loud noise. So leading up to the holidays, it's always just been, okay, let me step away from this. So let me clear my own mind. Let me go to my room. Some of the things that I've been able to observe, and also say, you know what, I need to figure out a way to handle this during the season.
Well, I think personally, I think I pump myself up for the crowd. I get excited about, I convince myself to be excited about the large group that's coming and who I haven't seen, and how I'm going to hug the babies, and and even if they don't know me, the preteens, and so before we end, they'll be like, they will say, they call me Mima. Say, Mima needs a hug goodbye. And they're all happy to give me a hug. I think I just psych myself into it. And so it's okay. But I totally agree with the need to sometimes just kind of step back and sit down and be still, and leave if you need to. Right. Find a quiet spot and kind of catch your breath. It's important when we need to. Yeah.
Totally. Absolutely.
Good.
With the chaos and being able to find a way to navigate through that, what would you recommend for someone that can't, like you said, pump themselves up for it, or someone like myself that can't, maybe they can't find a place to go run and hide?
Right. Yes. Well, again, it's taking care of yourself is primary, right? You have made the commitment to attend, which is a big step right there, because you know what you're walking into. But making a plan so that when it gets overwhelming, that you can make that decision. Well, it might be a little cold tomorrow, but you could go outside. If you want, you could take a walk. You can, like you said, excuse yourself. Find someone who's a quiet person, right?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
can, and join them, because they're not going to just talk your head off, and no one's going to come in the room yelling where they are. But I think it requires a little bit of planning so that you're comfortable and you feel okay to let people know, I just need a moment, and be honest about it. I just need a moment. I'll be right back.
Right.
Well, that's not being honest, because you won't be right back. But
It'll be-
15 minutes, right? Yeah,
right.
absolutely. Remove yourself so that you can enjoy the family while you're there together. Right. Yeah.
That's so important. I think people tend to forget, like, wait a minute, yes, this is a time to be with family, but it's also time to make sure mentally you're okay.
Yes.
And I think, I think we tend to forget our own health and our own well-being, because we want to make sure that the family is happy and having a great
Right.
time. But it's, wait a minute,
Yes.
probably
Yeah.
make sure you're okay too.
Yes. I had to remember. So we're doing Saturday's dinner here at my new spot. And at first, when my sister suggested it, I'm like, that's a lot of people in my space. And then my daughter suggested someone else might join us. And then I really got like, okay, I'm not so sure. We'll need some folding chairs and stuff. And later on, I felt like, Brenda, you have a roof and walls. You can fit as many people as you need to in this place. Cut it out.
Wow.
They'll eat all the food, and we don't have to worry about leftovers. It'll be okay.
Right. That's good.
But my daughter was sensitive to that. When I said to her, yes, definitely invite, she said, I saw your hesitation, Mom, and I'm going to rethink about it, because it will add a lot of noise and a lot of movement to what we already are going to have a pretty packed place. And I was like, thank you for thinking of that. Thank you for seeing that, and so family members will be sensitive. Most of them will be.
Most of them.
You can't count on everything. Yeah.
And that just goes. It just supports what you said earlier about planning, right? I think it's like, yes, we know Thanksgiving's coming. We know family's going to be here. We know friends are going to be here. Even potentially coworkers might be there.
Right.
So plan it. Plan properly. What are you going to do? What it's going to look like. I think that's huge. And I think leading up to it and the day of, if you plan properly, you're better emotionally and mentally.
Oh, yes.
In a better position. So that's a very good point.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're having it at your home, you want to be able to rest the night before and not be up till 2 a.m., I don't know, baking or something.
Yeah.
I just heard that pie crusts do not do as well in the refrigerator. And so overnight, for a pie crust to be on the shelf is actually better. It may be crispier instead of being a little bit tougher from having been chilled. And I was like, really? That's great. Okay. So I will be cooking some pies the night before, for Saturday, not for tomorrow.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. So now let's talk about like the downside of the holiday gathering. I know, like, for example, myself, I had some family members that passed away last year, and this is the second Thanksgiving without them, because they died right before Thanksgiving. But just even last year, like, we were able to tell the difference, no matter who it was, whether it was a sibling or a nephew. We were able to tell, wait a minute, normally such and such would have gotten that extra turkey leg, or normally such and such would have came in 10 minutes before everyone left. And right. So it's like it's a thing that we took for granted, but with that individual or individuals missing, we're like, wait a minute, normally this person would have done this. So for me, it was really an eye opener it was a good reminder, like, whoa, wait a minute, this person is really gone.
Mm,
Um,
yes.
so last year it was tough, especially for my immediate family. It was really difficult to grasp that.
Yes.
But we pressed through, of course, and then tomorrow is going to be another opportunity to see what happens again.
Yeah.
But I think this year, I'm better prepared, like you mentioned, but being prepared. So now
Okay.
I'm actually embracing the moment, and I'm
Mm,
saying, I'm saying, you know
wonderful.
what, right, and I'm saying, you know
Yeah.
what, normally such and such would have grabbed that extra turkey leg, and instead of being
Right.
sad about it, it's like, oh man,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
So what some tips, some advice, what would you say, for those individuals that are grieving, this season?
Wow. Yes. Well, just like you, I've gone through the process. I'm still
Mm,
going through the process. My
okay.
husband passed in January of
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the same thing as your family was doing, going through
Yeah.
that process. And for some people, and because you always have to give both sides, right? Because not everyone's going to respond the same in grief.
Right.
For me, talking about Patrick was something that just normally would bubble up in me because
Mm,
he was 44 years of my life. So
right.
there's constant examples and situations where he would have done this and he would have said that.
Yeah.
And I had to stop and think. I'm like, well, is are other people uncomfortable because I keep bringing Patrick's name up?
Mm,
But it made me feel better. Like you saying, now
right.
you can kind of mention that or you can think about that, and it's
Yeah.
not a heavy weight on you.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to, and some family members feel like, well, why do you keep talking about him? I'm like, well, took me 44 years to get here. It's gonna take me 44 years to stop. How about that?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So
Yes.
don't count out in any time
Yes.
soon, right? Um, it's too much a part of my life. But again, it's that planning piece, right? It can
Mm,
be extremely overwhelming to think about things. If you are have to travel, then drive with someone else. I remember that was one of the hardest things for me was that first time I went somewhere and drove home alone, which I
right.
had never done in the last 44 years because Patrick was always there.
Right.
And
Right.
and so reaching out to people who you know are being a little bit more sensitive to it or quiet to it, or you know may have had a really strong relationship, if family members can reach out to them and just have a chat at the end of the night, like you talked about before, during, and after. You know,
Yeah.
um, so glad to see you today. It was so good, and let them, if they now need to talk about their loved one, they probably could. They
Right.
won't feel like I'm bring a downer at the party.
Yeah.
Let them
Yeah.
speak. And so, right,
That.
we have to be available for both types of responses to grief.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be expressive, sometimes people are going to cry, and it's got to be okay. I think in my during my grief groups, so I went through therapy, and then I went through a grief group, which I continue to visit. You can always go back; it's like a family affair,
Yeah. Yeah.
and and there are people who have cried for an entire year, and I mean like daily crying. And
Wow.
and then there are people who are like, I'm out, I'm visiting friends, I'm on the phone, I'm gonna,
Wow.
I need to be active, I can't sit. And on both cases, I'm like, really, really, really? Okay.
Wow.
But we don't judge how people handle their grief.
Right.
It's really what they need to do. And for the person who's grieving is to know that no, you're not going crazy.
Hmm.
You're not.
Yeah.
It has been a psychic trauma. It's worse than the physical one where you can identify it and work on it. It's something that has to get eased on its own, and you know that because
Yeah.
you've gone through
Definitely.
grief as well. So I'm a reader,
Yeah.
so I love reading books. Right? A friend gave me a book called "When You Lose Someone You Love." It makes it normal what you're feeling. You read it and you go like, "Oh yes, that's me.
Mm,
That's exactly where I am." And
right.
so, and that's a good place. And then there was a book which I didn't understand the name. It's called Good Grief. And I'm like, how can you have good grief?
Right.
But again, grief is not good.
Right.
And then a friend gave me another book that was called God Winks at New Beginnings or something like that. God Winks or something. And it's again that idea of finding that joy at some point, right? For me, it was being able to listen to the music from the 70s that Patrick and I were courting during that time frame, and being able to find some joy in it again, where I'd cry every time I heard one of those songs for a while. Now it's better. Now I'm doing much more smooth jazz. So I'm learning some new stuff.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think a couple of things I picked up on what you said was, you know, it's okay. Whatever you're going through, it's okay. Like, be honest with yourself. And don't shy away from it. Whatever that thing may be that reminds you of that person, visit it. You know, and if the grieving process takes a day, then it takes a day. If it takes a year, then it takes a year. Whatever you need to do to grieve and fully grieve. I think a lot of issues that people run into is there's like a stigma where it's like, okay, there should be the grieving process should end by this weekend.
Right. Thank you. Right.
Like, no, like
no,
it's like
not at all.
So you know, and I think, you know, when we don't grieve properly, you know, other areas of our lives stop to feel that, you know. So it's
absolutely. Yeah. Yes. You know, Patrick and I met in 1971. So that would have been 50 years ago. And a couple of weekends ago was our wedding anniversary, and I went to sit by the water. I stayed a couple of nights in Middletown, right across from Cliff Walk and East Beach, or First Beach in Newport. And then when I came home, I did great for the whole weekend. I was really sad, and I'm like, well, you know, am I sad because? And I wanted to just just ignore it, Brenda. And as you just said, sometimes we need to sit with it.
Yeah.
Don't deny how you're feeling. Right. Sit with it. It's like a wave. You talk about waves of grief, right? Let that wave roll over you. Go through that wave. Let it subside so that you can be okay and not have stuffed it someplace where later on you might get a little testy with somebody because you haven't allowed that emotion come up, right? And if you're kind of a reflective person, then you can kind of think about what you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. And I determined that I wasn't feeling sad just because he was gone. I was feeling sad because he would have loved this place. He would have totally enjoyed seeing by the water and the waves crashing on the rocks and walking along the ocean's edge. And that is what made me sad. But it's a lot less sadness than it used to be. Yes. Yeah. So sit with it. Absolutely. Don't deny your feelings at all. And I can't hear you, Johnny. No. But I'm telling you, God will bring you through all of it. That is the best thing ever. You know, when my heart hurt so much that I couldn't breathe, it was just saying, okay, God, I can't do this. You got to carry me through this.
Right.
You know, it was my saving grace. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, like you said, like, I think if you don't deny your feelings, you can seek the help, you know? So it's if I know, man, I'm so hurt right now, and I'm admitting that I'm not denying my feelings, but now I can also say, wait, I'm hurt, I need help. But now, if I am hurt and I'm denying the fact that I'm hurt, how can I go ask for help? So
right, yes. And as you said, grief can take as long as you need it to take. No one can say, oh, you should be over it by now. It's like, unless you've walked in my shoes, I don't even want to hear that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So thank you so much, Dr. Brenda. You
You
shared
are so
so much
welcome.
helpful information with everyone. Before we go, I do want you to share how can everyone get a hold of your new
Oh,
project, a Be Average Student. How can if there's someone that's watching right now wants to get in contact with you or get involved with the program, um,
wow.
how can we do that?
Well, I guess the easiest way right now would be to email me.
Okay.
Um, I do have an email average and it's email address, and it is just abaveragestudent@gmail.com.
Okay.
And then from there, we can talk about what your needs are and begin the process if you feel it's something that I can help you with. Um, I'd love to chat with anyone who's struggling to get those A's and B's. I've been there, done it, you know, 7 years to finish my PhD, but I did it.
You did it. Right. You did
Yeah.
it. Awesome. Great. Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, to everyone watching, happy Thanksgiving. We
Yes.
really want to send our well wishes to you and your family this holiday
Yes.
season. Do not deny your feelings if you are grieving this year.
Hmm.
And really seek help if help is needed.
Yes.
Do it with loved ones, be around friends, be around family, but also make sure your mental health is well taken care of as well. Um, so that concludes tonight's
All right.
roundtable.
Whew.
Thank you again, Dr. Brenda.
You are
We
so
appreciate you
welcome,
being here.
Johnny. Thank you for having me tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.